Right, gang, I'm here with Hanane Gamhiouen, high performance coach, working in the leadership performance space. Welcome, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm super intrigued about what you do, because you're like a bit like a master assassin in relation to what you do. There's so much you do that you can feel the way that the way you process already is like when someone gives you the problem, you're like, well, there's levels. I want to try and, I'm just curious about that. That stuff's wicked, but the way you see that's more probably you. I think going to be more, and also you from like a marketing standpoint, you're going to be that's what's going to sell your speciality, isn't it? Rather than just blanket stuff. I'm so curious about what you do and how you do it.
You know what you just reminded me of just now? So the way you just assessed me just now and how I break things down, that is actually linked to why I do what I do, because
Wicked.
I just remember when in my first ever job, I was 17 when I started working, and it was an office job with lots of grown-ups.
Oh,
I was
mega,
like the
nice.
youngest person, and this lady who had the desk sort of just in front of me, she'd always have people sitting at her desk and sort of chatting away, and they'd be talking for ages, and I was looking, and I'd always be like, I never have long conversations with people. I don't know how. How does she get to that level of depth? I was so curious that really getting into coaching was really about understanding conversations and how people open up and how people trust you, and just being fascinated by how do people trust her enough to open up that much and be that vulnerable, and that fascinated me.
Nice. I that interpersonal relationship with it's quite an oxymoron, because at that age you're so, at being so young, you're so naive, but yet you're so curious and engaged in relationship. What do you mind what sort of line of work you were in before you got into that, into coaching itself? What was the catalyst for you to shift from, it sounds like you were in a corporate environment doing the standard procedure of your societal expectation of go and get a cool job and all that kind of stuff, where actually what you've done is you've gone, hang on a minute, this is my thing. What were you doing before, and what was the catalyst for you to go shift lanes and commit to doing it, compared to, like you said, just being curious?
So I left college actually during my A-levels, and just got any job. Just wanted any job. Studying wasn't for me. Later diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, just realising I can't sit in this classroom. I was doing 4 A-levels. I was always, getting good grades, but it was just such hard work. So I got a job, and I thought it would just be a summer job, and then maybe figure out what I wanted to do differently. And it was a job where I was working on different projects. It was a government-funded projects, so every year there would be different funding. It was EU funding and ERDF or whatever they were called, but different fundings and different criteria for how they would spend the funding. So I was working on projects. One of those projects was for women, to help them start their own business.
Oh, cool.
So we hired 35 life coaches, because it wasn't just about giving them business advisors and business coaches, it was more about
Holistic side.
Yeah, and especially it was in East London, it was very much, how do you give yourself permission to, you're a full-time mother and being a housewife, and actually realizing you've got this talent and skill, and how do we give you the confidence to go out there and actually do it? So that's how I was introduced to coaching.
Oh, cool.
So with that curiosity of understanding people and how they have, build trust and connect, and then realize there's a whole industry that does this. And so I was a project coordinator, 17. I did that for 7 years, and on the journey, whenever I was organising sort of extra workshops and training for the coaches, I ended up
doing it with them.
So I was 22 when I started coaching.
That's
mega. I was just fascinated, and actually it was an NLP training course, so that I observed the first one because I was assisting and supporting, and then the second one we ran, I was a participant.
And your head fell off, and you just saw saw the Matrix in it.
Yeah.
With this, how me and Chris have connected before is I've done NLP coaching myself purely. I used to play professional sport, left sport, lost little pup in the middle of Singapore, trying to figure out who I was. So did some NLP coaching as in one-on-one, and then took a practitioner's course, and I went down the mental performance rabbit hole. Fast forward to now, what sort of what's your dynamic in relation to work and who you work with now, and how do you operate off? Before we were talking around flow states and all the cool peak performance based stuff, but bring it back a bit just so people can get a bit of context about what you do, and I can feel why you do it, but give us a bit more.
So when I left that job, I took a voluntary redundancy and decided to go backpacking. Loved it, and I had no idea what I wanted to do as a grown-up. I didn't think coaching was a thing, to be honest. I just thought
it was a joke.
We hired them for this project. I don't know what people do, and I didn't understand it fully. I was a kid. And, when I came back, literally the first job I applied for, I got it, and it was at a large professional services firm.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I discovered that large companies have leadership development teams, they have coaching teams. I was already a qualified coach, so I started coaching within the professional services firm and designing and facilitating leadership courses. And then that's when I realised actually I'm quite good at this, and went back to university and studied while I was working
cool.
and doing that. So while I was working in the corporate world, I did also realise, okay, I'm constantly striving for the next level, striving for that promotion.
Achieve.
It was very much constant high performance, and I travelled a lot while I was working there, and I burnt out a few times, and that's how I got into understanding how my body reacts to stress. What does it mean when I'm overdoing it, or constantly trying to be the high performer and get a good rating and deliver complex projects, and being known for the one that delivers complex projects. And then now I've got this identity that I've got to stick to. So
that's a wormhole in itself.
So that's how I got into sort of understanding flow, because I was struggling with it myself. I was struggling to stay at that high performance level and be good all the time without letting people down, whilst also traveling and not being able to eat properly, not sleeping very well, time zone changes, jet lag. Different dynamics, different stakeholders, relationships, connecting, always being at your best and looking your best and sounding your best, preparing. It's exhausting.
On. Yeah.
So just realising, actually, I wasn't the only one struggling with it. And even my coaching clients were also struggling with it.
Sure.
And that's how I started, going on extra courses. Like I work in leadership development and learning, and I am fascinated with it, and I do a lot myself. So I started going on, flow coach trainings, understanding what it means to look after your body. What does active recovery mean? What is rest?
All the things that high performers pretend that aren't important, but are probably the most important pieces of the puzzle. I reckon what would be wicked, just so viewers maybe get a bit of an insight, because flow's such like a buzzword at the moment, and everyone's like, find your flow. And if you're peak performance, you're in flow. Let's bring it back a second, because I think people who will be watching this are going to have the symptoms of not getting into flow, i.e. overwhelmed, frustrated, lack of energy, lack of focus, procrastinating, all the sort of these pain points. For you and how you operate, because flow is a thing, but it's also contextual in relation to the positions you're in and who you're working with and stuff. How do you what is flow within your philosophy, and how does it show up in not maybe your process or your customer's process?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring it right back to what people do at work. They receive feedback, and then they try and work on the areas that people told them they were not very good at, and then they're just average, right? Because you're constantly working on being better from other people's lens. But really, when flow happens is when you're not consciously making effort, right? You are not thinking. You are at your best, where time passes differently. You're enjoying it. You're getting, real-time feedback and learning from it, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. So you're just, I guess, you're being your best self and not having a conscious efforting, for lack of a better word. I'm not like trying, it's happening. And that's why, for me, when it comes to flow, it is, and most of my designs when I do leadership development starts with yourself, like intrapersonal. How do you think about yourself? What are your strengths? What are your superpowers? What is your zone of genius? Do that more. Other people can do the stuff that you're not very good at, especially the more senior you get.
That's how do you, just from a personal perspective, and from I've seen this across multiple different business types. You get to a position where you're in from grit and determination, and usually grit and determinations are laced with I'm willing to suffer and I'm going to just do everything as hard as I possibly can until I break or I win. If somebody was watching this, how would they know it's time to not just engage with you or to start looking into their process? What would they be feeling which would show they're not reaching their potential? When a customer who walks past the door and goes, hang on a minute, there's something up here. What would you say they'd be feeling, looking to do, or what would be some things coming up in their life that would be they'll be struggling with?
I think it's really usually the things that show up really every day that it won't be surprising. Just being bored, uninspired, not excited, or almost like you're walking through quicksand. Just treading water. If you're not waking up and having fun, it's time to look at it.
Do you know what? I think that's one of the biggest points that I've learned personally is actually enjoying or seeking joy in your day. I saw Tony Robbins just got a slide put in his house, like a slide you get on a kids thing, and he says it's the only I'll start the day with a laugh. And it really, my dad used to talk around having a belly laugh, and I never really got it until I've been in this environment where it's so strategic, it's so mechanical, it's so like, especially you're working with big teams and big fields and big corporates where it's like P&L and whatever, Q3, Q4, blah, blah, blah. Whereas humans are built to, in a tribal standpoint, are supposed to have joyous moments. And how do you actually find that in your day?
Yeah. And I guess it's what is your intention for your day? Do we all have our intention for the day? Do we plan our day that way, or do we look at our diary and see what someone else has put in it?
It's such a hard. I'm getting curious. I haven't really worked in. I work with one-on-one mainly. I've worked in teams, but not high level. They're more teams of 3, like gyms and stuff. Do you find that people that you work with have the capacity to manipulate their diary, or do you find that their work usually, generally speaking, I know it's quite specific, but generally speaking, because I coach inside my program, is like one of the first thing you do in the first 7 days is get your diary in line with your training and your nutrition, because I'm like, if it's not in your diary, it's never going to happen. We were talking about recovery before. Do you find the people that you work with have similar capacities, or is it a case of their work is dictating the pace and they're struggling to keep up? Or
a lot of people will say that their work dictates the pace. Right. So again, are you choosing to sit at your desk, or as soon as you wake up, look at your emails and respond to them, or do you protect your first 90 minutes to focus on your own priorities?
See, I'm not stupid. We're off the same hymn sheet. It's because when you're talking about flow, because people that haven't sort of delved into flow, like Stephen Kotler stuff and that kind of thing, it's not like an emotional wushu thing. It's actually a neurochemical thing. But it seems so simple, but it's not. Like you said, not getting on your phone because your brain's in an alpha brain state rather than a beta, but all that kind of stuff. We need to know that, but clients don't, but vice versa.
We wake up with the highest dopamine in the morning. Get your own work done first.
It's so...
if you're starting with other people's emails and then getting irritated, and it's not great. But I also advise clients, if they're not there, if their diary and their teams are dictating their day, then we look at succession. How do you prepare your teams to be able to delegate to them? And that takes time. And people get surprised when they get promoted and they're in more senior positions and they've got higher workload, but they can't let go of the doing, of the delivery, but they haven't got anyone to pass it down to. So these things have to happen over time. And that's why leadership development, you don't just go onto one course or, have one coaching session. It's a journey that you have to shift your mindset and prepare for over time.
How do you, again, very curious, because more from a coaching delivery standpoint, how do you personally find teeing that up to one of the types of clients you have? Because me personally, I'm like the last resort for a CEO or an executive, because they've tried everything. They've got the whoop, they've done the training plan, they've whatever rubbish juice detox diet, blah blah. They've done. It's because the visual's not matching the audio of what their expectations are, and actually they've taken 20 years to actually destroy their health. They think 10 minutes is going to help them. Vice versa, similarly for you, not just from a personal standpoint or from like a team standpoint. how do you find it that first conversation goes down? Because I find that it's so you blow somebody's mind because you're like, it's not the thing you think it is. It's actually this. Do you find you have the same thing, or is yours very much a case of people know that your program is however long?
So look, the leaders I work with are very successful leaders. They've been doing this for a really long time. I'm not telling them anything. I use questions and they come up with it. So it's not really for me to convince anyone. It is stuff that I've learned over my journey of 20 odd years coaching and working with leaders. Is really, they realize it for themselves. This isn't new. This is something that is a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
And they're all really good at what they do. They're highly successful. They're intelligent. They're smart.
They're motivated, they're driven, they don't need...
And they're ready to make the shift. And sometimes it's about just stopping and interrupting that pattern of the autopilot and actually making a change and making a decision and a choice. To be at cause and not at effect.
Massive. More like, for me, that's a personal journey of mine. Is I was, you can tell by my face, I used to just run into a door the whole time playing rugby. The business was the same thing when I first started online. I used to work in Singapore, mainly sort of the CEO executive side, and that's how I got into the mental performance, because I realized it wasn't physiological. They knew to train, they just couldn't match the audio with their behavior and their mindset. But then me personally, like, I think it's easy just to keep running at everything, where actually I assume it sounds from that is like the people who are operating at the highest level, actually putting the handbrake on and actually taking a look at the view is probably going to give you way more, not just perspective, but clarity in what direction you're going, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think, again, massively appreciate your time. That was awesome. I said this with Chris before. Everyone who's sort of in our field, all we want to do, we could just sit here for like an hour and a half and just talk all sorts of stuff. But no, again, I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed that. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to working alongside you.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.